Hi. Working from home has been something that many of us have been getting used to since COVID started. And so today I want to talk a little bit about work from home injuries. This is a complicated topic because workers' compensation is meant to cover injuries that occur while at work. But ever since we've started working from home, now the workplace extends beyond our company's physical location. So think about the old workplace where these tall buildings where our employers were. Let's say this is Google, and now that we're working from home, the workplace is our house, right? Condo, apartment, wherever you live. This is the new workplace. And since workers' compensation insurance or benefits covers employees who get hurt at work, and the workplace has shifted from the traditional large company to now our homes, injuries that happen within the home, if it's reasonably related to your work, injuries that happen within the home are considered work-related injuries. Let's review. What are some common workplace injuries? So let's review the most common injury that takes place while working from home. It's called a cumulative trauma injury. And what does cumulative trauma mean? It's kind of it's a complicated term, right? It's almost complicated to hide the fact that it's actually really simple. What it means is that it's a type of injury that occurs when your body's put in a different and uncomfortable position, and that uncomfortable position causes stress on your bones, on your muscles. Notice in this specific example, we have a guy here. He's looking down onto his computer. He's probably constantly looking down onto his iPad, onto his notebook. He's sitting on a chair that has very bad back support, so it's very likely that his back is strained. And this is generally not a very ergonomic setup, right? If this were to have happened at an office, your local HR person would be running over and trying to fix up your computer screen, make sure your desk is at the right height, make sure your keyboard's stationed correctly, and make sure your monitor is at eye level. But when we're at home, we don't have access to these resources. So instead, our body gets used to the positions we put them in. And in this case, this gentleman's looking down on his screen. He's slouching on his chair. And so very likely he has pain in his neck and low back areas. The second most common type of work-related injuries are trip and falls. As the name entails, it's when you trip over something and you fall and break a bone, hurt a knee, and cause some kind of physical injury. This is quite common while working from home because, as you can imagine, we're sharing our homes these days in a very different way than how we used to use our homes. We're sharing our homes with people who are also working from home, maybe family members, children who are taking classes at home. We're also cramping our home with more things than we have before. We're spending a lot more time there. So we're adding more furniture, adding more electronics. When the house starts to fill up, then the probability of an accident happening within this more cluttered space becomes higher. Third, and definitely not least, is mental stress. From all of the benefits we receive while working from home, less of a drive to work and saving on hours of commute time, less face time required with our coworkers, meaning we don't have to dress as nicely or come prepared as nicely. All of these things come at a cost. And some of that cost, and I'm sure a lot of you have experienced it, I've spoken to a lot of people who have as well, is that it comes with increased stress. And why is that? Like for myself and many others, COVID has been a reason for a big jump in my stress level. While we reap the benefits of working from home, we also have now come to a baseline where the expectations from working from home have grown and grown. Right? The lack of commute time means more time to focus on work. Less face time with coworkers means more meetings throughout the day to socialize. Socialize with people, socialize ideas, to plan work and divide that work amongst your team. More meetings means less time for work, less time for the work that we're in charge of, that we actually have to do on a day-to-day basis. And all of this can contribute to an increase in mental stress. And I bet you didn't know that mental stress is considered a workplace injury. So this begs the question of, what does workers' comp cover? So what does workers' comp cover? It's a good question, and a question I get a lot. Workers' comp can be broken down into three main benefit categories. The first is medical treatment. Whatever injury you have likely will result in the need for some kind of medical care, right? If it's a bone injury, you'll have to see an orthopedist. If it's a muscular related injury, you're likely going to see some kind of physical therapist, potentially a pain management specialist. If it's a psychological injury or a stress injury, like we talked about just before, you'll see a psychiatrist or a psychologist. The second main workers' compensation benefit is wage replacement. It's very likely that you'll need some time to recover from your injury. I mean, you can't work through it. Very likely that maybe you'll need surgery, maybe you'll need some intense treatment, and because of that, you'll miss some time from work. Well, workers' compensation covers the time you lose from work. If you're not getting paid by your employer, you'll be getting paid by their workers' comp insurance. And the third category is permanent disability. This is usually reserved for cases that are a little bit more serious. And I have another video that talks about what permanent disability is and the type of benefits you get from it. But to make things short, it really is just to cover for the difference between what your expected lifetime earning capabilities were before this injury versus what it actually became as a result of this injury. Again, reserved for more serious cases, and I have a video that talks about permanent disability benefits in a separate topic. So how do you file a workers' compensation claim? Well, steps are pretty easy. At the core of things, I'm going to draw this stick figure to represent you, have an injury, and you want to go see a doctor. We'll use this as an example of a doctor. Now, while this is a straight and easy to understand concept, in order to get there, you have to pass by a few steps. It's not a straight process. The first thing you need to do is tell your manager or HR. Your manager or HR will kickstart a process, and this process is they'll let their insurance company know that you have a workers' comp claim, and the insurance company will start the process of getting you to the doctor that will take care of you. Here's what to expect when you go and see a workers' compensation doctor. First, you'll likely get sent to an occupational clinic. These are clinics that are designed to treat injured workers. Some of you might have been to a Concentra urgent care or a Kaiser on a job. These are the types of urgent cares you see in McDonald's plazas and Kohl's plazas, and they're designed to take care of employees who get hurt. They're not particularly stocked with advanced equipment or MRI machines, but they have the basics. They have an emergency doctor on staff. They have an x-ray machine to confirm that you didn't break a bone or to confirm that you did. And they're really the first line of defense. So when you go to these clinics, they're there to make sure that nothing is urgent. If it's urgent, they'll send you to a hospital. Let's say that your injury wasn't urgent. Let's say you hurt your back while working from home because you tripped and fell on your way to go get coffee in your kitchen. They'll send you first to an occupational clinic. That's where you'll treat. Um, and once you've seen your occupational clinic physician, they'll probably they'll give you some medication and send you off to physical therapy. And then send you off to physical therapy. Just to see, hey, is your injury that bad? Could it be resolved through some therapy? Maybe it's myofascial, it's like a first degree strain on your muscle, and there's no need for anything further than that. At this point, you have a choice. You can continue treating with the doctor at the occupational clinic, or you can go and see a specialist. A specialist is a doctor that specializes in whatever injury or medical condition you have. Right? If you hurt your back, then you'll probably want to see an orthopedic surgeon. If you have carpal tunnel, you'll probably want to see a hand therapist. If you have a mental stress injury, you'll want to see a psychologist or a psychiatrist. These are specialists. These are specialists who don't care about where your injury happened, don't care if it's at work or not. It's not about your occupation. They care about your medical condition and getting you back to the best version of yourself possible. So you'll continue treating with whoever you're treating with, whether that's you continue with the occupational clinic or you go and see a specialist. There will be a treatment plan. Usually this treatment plan is a few weeks up to months long, depending on how serious your injury is, but it could entail some physical therapy, potentially some injections if it's pretty serious, or maybe even surgery if it's really bad. But you'll continue treating with the medical specialist that you've been assigned. During this time, you'll also start getting your financial benefits. These are things like your wage replacement benefits, any kind of lost time from work. The insurance company will essentially pay you your income loss. And then finally, after the doctor has said you've reached basically what's called maximum medical improvement, and that's you've gotten as good as you can for medical treatment for your injury, you'll get to settle your case. And you can settle your case typically in two ways. The first way is to lock in future medical care, and the second way is to settle your case via a lump sum settlement. The difference there is explained in another video I have, the difference between a stipulations settlement and a compromise and release settlement. And the last topic we'll talk about is something I get asked about a lot, and it's the concerns that people have around filing a workers' compensation claim. Right? Typically, I'll hear things like, "Oh, my boss is going to hate me," right? Or my company will hate me. I'm going to get fired, right? My coworkers will find out. These are common misconceptions that prevent people from filing workers' compensation claims when they really should. To address these concerns, the first thing I'll say is that workers' compensation is a benefit that's created for, managed, and regulated by the federal government, and really using the power of each state, each individual state, to govern those benefits. Meaning that the government has put into place protections for injured workers. Things like my boss will hate me. Bosses these days, if you're a manager, you'll probably know this, but bosses these days are trained to make sure that they are essentially blindfolded when it comes to workplace injuries. Doesn't matter who has the injury, the fact that it took place means we have to get this employee back to their pre-injury medical status. So your boss cannot stop you from filing a claim, cannot use this claim against you. Their only job is to make sure you get better. So to answer the second question, can you get fired? No, you cannot get fired by filing a workers' comp claim. If you get fired by filing a workers' comp claim, you can sue your employer for wrongful termination. And finally, your coworkers will find out. HR is responsible for making sure that this doesn't happen. So that covers the topic of what happens when you have a workplace injury and that workplace happens to be at home. For more information about workers' compensation claims, how to navigate the process, and how to just learn more about it, please visit www.workcompt.co. You'll find great information here, information that's well curated for injured employees like yourself. And feel free to definitely reach out through this web portal and website if you have any questions or any recommendations for future topics that you'd like to have covered. Thank you.